Yo, 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 yo. What's going on? It's Terrell, Hall of Fame, D-Line, TBKC, and all that sweet, beautiful, wonderful shit. Okay. Last. Dude's truck sounded like it was about to blow up. God bless him. But last but not least, this was another question. And like I say, I answer a lot of these things in the mentorship thing. But I'm gonna get at this right now. Why do I believe, and this is another theory video, but it's based off of, like I say, I did go to veterinary medical school. I did actually do almost 6 years. Yeah, almost 6 years. That last semester is when I won't count that one. But why are the dogs having such breathing problems? I guess, of course, it's genetics. Of course, you have issues with the palates where there's a soft palate that's blocking the airways. But there is something that you notice is that the dogs who do not have the soft palates are having breathing issues too. And let's just talk about frame and anatomy. These dogs are very, very heavy. As we want to believe, and I'm one of these people, and I can attest to this, and anybody who's getting a little bit older or anybody who's been overweight, you can attest to this. It doesn't matter if it's muscle, it doesn't matter if it's fat. The body is designed a certain type of way. As you put on more mass, let's not say fat, let's not say muscle, but as you put on more mass in general, things will start to happen. Mass in itself creates stress. It creates, I'm just getting some more lighting here, but it creates stress, and it creates stress on the hearts and the lungs. Even muscle mass compresses. A lot of bodybuilders will tell you that a lot of bodybuilders suffer from the same sleep apnea and other issues of breathing issues that come along with people who have obesity. It's just mass. Whether you got the huge muscle pecs and it's pressing in on your chest, or whether you're just overweight and it's pressing in on your chest, it's a hard weight to carry. Twofold is also that no matter what it is, muscle or fat, it is harder. And the fat, I mean, the muscle is actually even more dense and harder to support than fat. But no matter what it is, the heart has to work a lot harder. If the heart has to work a lot harder to support your muscle mass or your fat mass, then the lungs have to work a lot harder. Basically, everything is working a lot harder, which therefore you are using more energy, but you are less efficient in the breathing process. This is what's going on with a lot of these dogs that don't have the other issues. The airways themselves are restricted already because of the type of dogs that they are. They're a shorter muzzle dog. Now, if you start talking about the shorter muzzle of the dog, the muzzle on a dog is designed to cool the air. They're not like us. They can't sweat. They are very, very reliant on that muzzle bringing the air down to a cooler temperature to allow it to, you know what I mean, be more functional inside the lungs and to keep them from overheating. Well, when you have shorter muzzle dogs, they don't function as well, you know what I'm saying, as, of course, going through the nose. They don't get that part of that part of the breathing process. So it already causes more issues with the breathing. Now, when you take on, and just follow me on this, when you start off the process that you're limiting the amount of oxygen that's coming into the lungs and upping the temperature, and now the body has to work a little bit harder to lower the temperature with less oxygen, the lungs are going to go into a hyperactive mode, which we know as we get tired, we breathe harder. We're trying to get more and more air in there. Well, that means the heart has to do its thing to try to get more oxygen, you know what I'm saying, to the body. Now, with all of this going on, we are creating dogs that have incredible mass. With this incredible mass, the body is demanding more oxygen. Now, this is like a cycle. Because as the body is demanding more oxygen, The heart and lungs are working harder and harder and harder. Now the struggle to get the oxygen to the other parts raises body temperature, causes other issues, which once again makes the heart and the lungs have to work a little bit harder. It's just a cycle, a cycle of unhealthiness. As this goes on, eventually what happens is that the lungs tend to have probably one of the hardest effects. And if you talk to people who've done ecropsies, especially on bullies, one of the things that they will tell you is that there's a significant amount of scar tissue inside the lungs a lot of times with these dogs. What's going on is that it's a very big struggle, and especially when you hear that sound that they make, that sound is an irritation. A lot of times it ends up an infection inside the lungs. Sometimes we'll just call it pneumonia, but it is an infection inside the lungs, as the lungs are basically just going into an atrophy moment, a moment where they just can't perform at this level anymore. The proper oxygen levels is not there to support the lungs, and that's something else. Yes, the lungs take in the oxygen, you know what I'm saying? But the lungs also need oxygen to recover the tissue there. This becomes a long beat up effect, and you may notice that puppies breathe better, but as the dog gets older, as this process goes on, it's a constant level of damage that's being done to the cardiovascular system. A lot of times there's scarring, a lot of times there's internal bleeding into the lungs. These lungs are taking a pounding. The airways are taking a pounding. They're becoming more and more sensitive, and most importantly, more and more inflamed. As they become more inflamed, it's harder to breathe, less oxygen. It's just a repetitive cycle that basically ends up in one day what we end up calling a heat stroke, but it's really not that. It's really a complete collapse of the cardiovascular system. And you can't pinpoint one thing because it's many things. You could pinpoint it to say the heart quit on you, but did the heart quit because of the lack of oxygen that came from the lungs? Or did the lungs fail? But did the lungs fail because of the lack of oxygen that was being applied through the bloodstream to to help the tissue recover? Or did the airways fail by getting inflamed and swelling up and closing down, which killed the oxygen that was going to the lung? It's all one and the same. And remember, if there's not the proper oxygen in the system, the kidneys and the liver also suffer. This is why our bodies are made so magnificently, including dogs. It all needs to work for it all to work. And this is why the dogs die young. They start dying early. They start dying early, and people don't understand that. When you start repetitively hearing these things happen from the puppy, and your puppy's breathing a little bit worse, this is the process. Every month it gets worse. Every month there's more tissue damage. Every month, if you pay close attention, you'll start to notice the pigmentation in your dog's mouth is changing. It goes from pink, and it slowly progresses to getting more and more of a purple color because of the lack of oxygen that is in your dog's system. Till one day it can no longer exist. It can no longer maintain it, and that's the day it gives out. And we call that the day of death, but the day of death started from the day of birth when the dog was born with this system. Unfortunately, the only thing that can reverse these things truly is to not breed it. You can't win with this situation, people. For us as adults and people, we can lose weight and we can do things because most of us, our bodies are still built that we can survive. But these dogs are programmed to be big the whole way around. We want them big, but big dies. I'm trying to tell you. It's not to say that your dog can't be muscular and healthy, but this has to be a very, very scientific thing to where we are picking the dogs with the best cardiovascular system that can make this happen. Because if we don't, these dogs are going to die. And if we continue to put these genetics in our dogs, eventually the whole breed has this. I'm not picking on any particular dog, but there's been a lot of dogs who met an early death because of these things. And it's sad that people don't want to recognize it, and people want to keep on doing this and not understanding this is not reversible. The only thing we can do is eliminate it with smart breathing and being conscious of what we're talking about and what we're doing. As I take a deep breath. But until next time, y'all, God bless y'all. Much love. Peace.